Joining me to unpack the report and discuss its recommendations is Liberal Senator for New South Wales, Hollie Hughes. Hollie, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I know this is an area that you're really passionate and a real fighter for, so it's particularly good to have your expertise.
Thank you, Amanda. And that was a great summation of what you've just put together in those three key issues that recommendations have been discussed about publicly over the past couple of days. And it comes back to, I mean, almost if you look at the way the voice is being handled, that everything is homogenous. The Indigenous voice is homogenous, that there's no disparity within those communities, and somehow that disability is homogenous. And as you said in your editorial, that one size fits all, and it just doesn't. And I've seen with some of the recommendations about, and we can go through and unpack them one by one if you want, but certainly with the special schools and how they parents use those schools, the kids that go to those schools, the communities based around them, how important they are. And it also looks at the very big difference between kids who have a physical disability versus those who have an intellectual disability, because quite often it's, it's easier to put and for simplification, it's easier to put a wheelchair ramp or a lift into a school than it is to necessarily survive, to supply a well-supported space with someone with a severe intellectual disability. They're very, very different things.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, clearly the objectives of the Commission were good, but do you think that on the whole it has succeeded in identifying solutions to some of the problems that are faced by people with disabilities in Australia?
Yeah, I'm still yet to churn through the whole report, I'll admit, but what I'm worried about, and we saw this even with the autism inquiry that I conducted a few years ago, is that we have people who are very loud, people who are able to advocate for themselves, and quite often it's their wishes and their demands that are drowning out those who really don't have a voice for themselves because they are non-verbal. They can't actually give, I noticed in some of it they're talking about full and frank consent. Well, if you're a non-verbal person with an intellectual disability, that might not actually be something you're even capable of doing. And there's this sort of expectation by these advocates, let's get rid of special schools, let's get rid of sheltered workshops, let's get rid of group homes, because there are some higher functioning people that don't require those levels of support. There are some people that will always need those levels of support, and we need to make sure that all options are on the table. No one's saying every person with a disability goes into a group home, but we are saying that there needs to be options available for the families that can choose the situation and the solution that best fits their child.
Do work arrangements that pay people with disabilities on the basis of the productivity they can offer, that's usually about 50% of the standard wage, as well as making sure they continue to receive what is around $1,100 a fortnight of disability support pension when you're a single person, does that unfairly exploit people with a disability?
Absolutely not. And for anyone that ever goes and visits one of these disability employment services where, these aren't operating, when you think of sheltered workshops, as businesses that aren't for profit. These are businesses that quite often are active within their local communities and provide a service and operate. They may be structured as not for profit, but actually operate within some sort of commercial trading space. For example, a laundry. I went and visited one a few years ago in Bathurst that did all the laundry for the jail, as well as a lot of the hotels and motels in the area. And to go and meet the people that worked there, it was their absolute raison d'etre. It was why they got up in the morning. It gave them their self-esteem, their confidence, their community. And I remember meeting the mother of, there was a man there with Down syndrome, and he would have been in his 50s. The mother was in her 70s. And, she told me a story about how he was so upset when he got up one morning, and it was actually Christmas morning, and that meant he wasn't going to work that day because, Thursdays he goes to work. And that's what he got up, and that was his purpose, and that was what gave him a real sense of fulfilment. Again, no one is forced into doing these things, but there are some people that sort of an environment is going to be best placed to allow them to participate, not only economically, but within a community, and give them their own purpose and self-esteem.
It's worth observing too that the Commission's report identifies that people who are on that sort of arrangement are getting more than the minimum wage for a person without a disability.
Well, and they're working.
Hard to see how it's exploitation in that context.
Yeah. And look, the group home
that
part
itself is important.
Yeah, look, the group home part, there's a lot of parents, and we talk about NDIS choice and control and working with flexible arrangements to make sure that people can live their best possible lives. And, you know, I know there's families that are currently working together, that their kids had been at school together, been in young adults now, getting to the stage where they want to move out of home, not be under mum and dad's feet, but they're not capable of living by themselves, but that they're going into a situation where the kids actually know each other and they're going into somewhere together and are supported together and have similar interests. Now, that's a much better solution than going into a supported independent living centre, which is the most expensive part of the NDIS, where people get put into homes regardless of who else is living in the home. So we should be looking at ways to do this creatively, but again, all solutions need to be on the table. I would like to see in supported independent living, you be able to be a landlord or you be able to be a service provider, but you not be able to do both. And at the moment, that's where some of these things are occurring.
Hollie, thank you so much for your time and your passion and your expertise on this stuff. I really appreciate you joining me tonight.